For the latest in strategic affairs, subscribe to our YouTube channel. Click the bell icon for updates.
Hello and welcome to The Gist on Strat News Global. Good evening, I'm Surya Gangadharan, and it seems the army is back in the saddle in Pakistan after a short interval. We find that they appear to have strengthened their position. They now have an interim government installed, largely comprising people they trust. They've also, of course, there's no certainty over when elections will happen. That's something still out there in the future. The passage of two bills is seen as strengthening the army's control over the civilian sphere. And of course, we also have the crackdown on Imran Khan's party men, also activists and many others. So that's the current situation. I have my guest this evening, Ambassador Sharat Sabharwal. He was India's High Commissioner to Pakistan way back in 2012 and has seen Imran Khan's rise from the very, very beginning. Sir, good evening. Glad to have you.
Good evening. Good to be with you, Surya.
So how do you see what's the big takeaway as far as the army is concerned? Is it in charge now? Is General Asim Munir firmly in the saddle?
Yes, I think so. There's nothing new. As you know, army has been in control in Pakistan directly or behind the scenes. Asim Munir was appointed under some controversial circumstances. He was to retire 2 days before the post fell vacant. So there was some tinkering with rules and so on to retain him. And I think he was lying low initially, trying to consolidate his position within the army, although he kept his interest in politics also from behind the scenes. And the May 9 events after Imran Khan's first arrest, violent events against army establishments, gave him an opportunity to consolidate his position. He got the support of all corps commanders by calling their conference. He's dismissed nearly 20 senior officers, including a lieutenant general who were seen to be leaning towards Imran Khan. He has decimated Imran Khan's party. All the army remains central to the calculations of all political parties. The Nawaz Sharif government got bills passed before it left to give army greater power in civilian administration, including trials by military courts for the agencies to carry out search operations and so on. Also, a bill to legitimize their role in the economy of Pakistan. I think that's very important. They not only legalized it for the future, but they also said any activities carried out in the past would also be legitimate. That's because some courts had questioned from time to time Army's deep involvement in various sectors of the economy. So yes, Asim Munir has consolidated his own position within the army. And the army is, of course, again back in the seat where it's controlling things. As you know, the caretaker prime minister who has been appointed, Anwarul Haq Kakar, he's beholden to them. His name was suggested by the army. It was nowhere on the scene. Most of the members of his cabinet have been close to the army. So as I said, they are in control.
Mm-hmm. So politically, what is the game plan now? What do they want to do?
Look, everyone, if you are asking me about the army, they have all cooperated. That is the principal actors, PML-N, PPP, and the army, in order to get rid of Imran Khan. Now he's under arrest again, and his deputy Qureshi is also under arrest, and some other members of the party are in detention. Having done that, I think they all have different aims. PML-N would like to have, sustain its primacy in Punjab. PPP would also, it has remained confined only to Sindh in the last two elections. So it would like to gain some seats in Punjab, particularly in southern Punjab. So their interests vary. As far as the army is concerned, I think they would like to have a situation where they can control things in an assembly. They would like to have an assembly where, it's not a clear mandate for anyone. And with the help of the smaller parties beholden to them, they can craft a majority of their choice. That's because even though they have cooperated with all these guys, PPP, PML-N, but because of the past history, they don't trust them completely.
Yeah.
Nawaz Sharif will probably come back. He is needed because he's the only one who carries the potential to neutralize Imran Khan's popularity to some extent. But I don't think the army would trust Nawaz Sharif completely because of what has happened in the past. Time and again, he has become prime minister. So I think they are working on this to have some splinter parties. So many members of PTI have gone to a party floated by Jahangir Khan Tareen, who had bankrolled Imran Khan's campaigns, but who fell out with him. He's been known to be very close to the army, has a lot of influence in southern Punjab, can gain some seats. Then again, the former chief minister of Khyber Pakhtunkhwa, Khattak, he has floated another party. He's also known to be close to the army. So there are these two new parties. If they get a few seats, and then you have parties already beholden to the army, MQM, PML-Q, whatever seats they get, or Chaudhry Shujat Hussain, then Balochistan Awami Party, to which the caretaker prime minister belonged until he was appointed prime minister. That seems to be the game plan of the army. So all actors are now acting in their own interest, and let's see what happens.
What about Imran Khan? What do they intend to do with him? What would you presume they'll want to do with him?
I think they would like to keep him in detention at least till the elections, to push him out of the political equation, push him and his party and his colleagues who are loyal to him. So he's been kept in very, very bad conditions in the Attak jail. That has come out in newspapers and so on. The idea probably is to break his will and to convince him to leave Pakistan and go somewhere. Otherwise, of course, they would like to get him convicted, disqualified from holding office or holding the position of the president of his party. That has already happened. In fact, the Election Commission of Pakistan has declared him disqualified from holding those positions. But the army would like to get some more convictions to put him out of the political equation firmly. Let's see how long he can hold on.
Do you anticipate some kind of exile like Benazir Bhutto in the past, even Nawaz Sharif?
Yeah, that would be their preference. That he leaves. He is no longer in Pakistan. But then they have to break his will. Instead of his continuing to be in the prison, he's given this option and he takes it. I don't know what is happening. All that we know is that he's being held under horrible conditions in the prison, from whatever has come out. And a judge who went to inspect testified to that. So I think that all that is an attempt to break his will and to convince him to leave. That would be their first preference. But if he doesn't crack and if he decides to, go through imprisonment, then they would like to keep him in prison at least till the elections are done and dusted.
Do you sense that the army is kind of running out of political allies? The major parties are people they've worked with before and they don't trust them. They're not coming up with new ginger groups.
That element is there. You see, one by one, all the proteges of the army have fallen out with it, starting from Zulfikar Ali Bhutto to Nawaz Sharif to now Imran Khan. So, in that sense, they don't have some principal actors to count on. As I said, they cooperated with PML-N and PPP, etc. But I don't think they trust them fully. That's why they are trying to tinker with the smaller parties and to craft a majority of their own choice. But the fact remains, in spite of all the criticism of the army, open criticism, which was unprecedented, one hadn't seen it in the past, the army remains front and center in the country's political equation. That's unfortunate for democratic tendencies in Pakistan. And as I said, they remain central to the calculations of all political parties. So down the line, if these actors are not pliable, they can pick up someone else with a degree of charisma and build him up, as they built up Imran Khan 2011 onwards. So I don't think they have, their choices have become difficult, but have they run out of their choices? I don't think that's so.
So, what is it about this army that makes it the way it is? I mean, in Bangladesh, the army stepped back, and although it's like a clone of the Pakistani army, but in this case, the generals don't want to give up. They don't want to let go, and continue. Even though they know it's not looking good.
Well, it's a strong stranglehold that had continued from the beginning. And the army has used the India bogey and external threat within courts to sustain its primacy in the Pakistani polity. That has given it a certain position in the Pakistani polity. They are deeply entrenched in various walks of economic life. They have a vast business empire, all the three services, notably the army. Then, of course, they haven't had a leader who could sort of lead the public in a revolt against the army, a mass revolt, so to say. I mean, Nawaz Sharif, each time he left, no such thing happened. Then
Yeah.
Imran Khan on May 9, when he was arrested the first time, there was violent agitation by supporters and army establishments were attacked. But even that was not a mass revolt. That was also his supporters, smaller groups acting in various places. And please note that after his second arrest, nobody has moved. The people
Yeah.
who can mobilize within his party were all under arrest, and nothing happened at all. And he's in jail now. He hasn't been given relief by the Islamabad High Court, where he had made an appeal. And yet, there is no mass uprising or anything of that kind. So I would also say that it's lack of a very, very charismatic leader who can lead that kind of revolt. Imran Khan thought he could do it, but you see his plight. So that has helped the army to hold on to a position of power, and I don't think they'll give it up easily. As I often say, if civil-military imbalance is redressed in Pakistan, it will be a process and not an event. It is a slow trend that will continue, and I think the criticism that the army faced in the recent months is a part of that process. But to expect it to suddenly give its entrenched position all the perks and privileges, I think that's unrealistic.
Do you expect elections next year, and when?
PML-N has been very keen to delay them as much as they can. Because Nawaz Sharif, I think, when he comes back, it will be sometime in September when the current Chief Justice is gone and the incoming Chief Justice is favorable to them. So they need some time to sort of regroup and reinforce their support base within Pakistan. And so therefore, instead of the National Assembly completing its term on August 12, they dissolved it 3 days earlier. Now, if it completes its term, you get 60 days for elections. If it dissolved earlier, you get 90 days. So they gain 30 days there. And then I think there are signs, clear signs, that the caretaker administration may stay longer. A bill was passed to give them power to exercise, more control than is done normally by a caretaker. Caretaker government is there to take care of day-to-day needs of administration. But here a bill has been passed to give them an authority to deal with more substantive issues on the pretext of running the economy and so on. Secondly, I think what Shahbaz Sharif did was just before he laid down office, he called a hurried meeting of the Council of Common Interest. This has chief ministers and others in it, including the Prime Minister, and approved the latest census of 2022. Now that means you require demarcation of the constituencies again. And the Election Commission says it will take 4 months. So that takes us to December, January. So the earliest elections can take place will be in February, March. And I think the army would like the caretaker setup to stay there and to deal with some harsh issues, including harsh economic steps, etc., to put things on the rails. Whether they would let elections happen then is also not clear. The caretaker prime minister is their own man. The cabinet has most of the people are beholden to the army. So I think earliest in February, March, I would say March, more like March. Whether it would be prolonged further, something like Bangladesh, where, the army propped up a government which stayed on almost for 2 years, if I remember correctly. And this Bangladesh model within courts has been spoken of in Pakistan quite often. Each time a civilian government seems to be failing, say, oh, bring technocrats backed by the army and let them do the job. So possibly they could be delayed further if the army believes that it needs some more time to build conditions in which it can have a legislative assembly of its own liking, where it can craft a majority, instead of giving a strong mandate to any political actor.
Do you think PTI is finished? Imran Khan is finished?
Imran Khan, I won't say, unless, they kill him. I'm not saying that that is something that they are likely to do in this day and age, probably a Bhutto kind of execution. But then, Benazir had also died blaming the army. So if he lives, I don't think you can write off any politicians. Shahbaz Sharif and company, Nawaz Sharif. Shahbaz couldn't have made a deal with the army without blessings of Nawaz Sharif. Someone like Nawaz Sharif makes a deal to get rid of Imran Khan. Tomorrow, another general may come and he may be looking for someone, and he says, okay, Imran Khan is sufficiently pliable now, he's been softened in the jail, etc. He's had bad experience. And Imran Khan also says, okay, I'm willing to work with you. He could come back again. So don't say that he's written off forever.
So where would you see Bilawal Bhutto?
Bilawal Bhutto, as I said, their aim is, of course, he tried his best, even as they were part of PDM. PDM, as you know, was floated with two aims. One, to neutralize Imran Khan, or at least to push him out of power. B, to oppose the rule of the army or control of the army. You remember those statements made by Nawaz Sharif from London against the army and generals, Bajwa, etc., etc.
Yeah.
But ironically, it has left office now, strengthening the hands of the army because of those bills which it got passed and the conditions that it created. Now, Bilawal all along, PPP was trying to cozy up to Bajwa's. And they would try and do the same with Asim Munir. Although, as I said, I don't think the generals, would trust anyone completely. Their first aim would be to expand beyond Sindh, because last two elections, they were reduced to a party confined only to Sindh, controlling the Sindh Legislative Assembly and also getting seats in the National Assembly at the federal level, only from Sindh, largely. Now, they would like to get some. They used to have a base in Punjab. They would like to get some seats, at least in southern Punjab and so on. At the very least, expand their strength in the parliament and then see what kind of legislative National Assembly is there, what kind of seats every party has, and there try and maximize their goings. As I pointed out earlier, army remains central to the calculations of all parties. So therefore, all will try post-elections to cozy up to them and to get prime ministership. Unless it is PML-N under Nawaz Sharif that gets a solid majority, in which case he may not yield easily. But the army, I think, is trying everything to ensure that that kind of contingency doesn't arise.
And the religious parties, where would you place them?
Religious parties, look, they have never got a very large percentage of votes. They have been 10% or thereabouts or even less. They are more potent because of their street power, because of their nuisance value for the authorities and for the government in power, for the army and so on. And secondly, they have had a lot of influence because both the army and civilian leaders have used the religious parties to their own ends, army to perpetrate terrorism abroad and to serve their own ends within Pakistan and so on. So I think the army, if they find that in addition to these splinter small parties that I spoke of earlier, They also want to bring in religious parties somewhere to cut into Nawaz Sharif's majority and so on. They may use them that way. But I don't see them gaining enough seats to have kind of a solid number of their own, unless the army wills it that way. And so far, there is no sign. I think they realize that these guys are very troublesome. So they are, while they are using them, they also need to be kept in their place.
That was Ambassador Sharat Sabharwal, former High Commissioner to Pakistan, talking about the long arm of the Pakistan Army. That's all we have for you tonight. Thank you for joining us. Do subscribe to our YouTube channel and follow us on social media, including Twitter. Good night. Thank you.